Broncos country, week 8 is in the book, and the Denver Broncos had a very dominant win, 44-24 over the Dallas Cowboys. Now, a lot of haters are going to say, oh, yeah, it's because the Cowboys defense sucks. Well, they still have a really good offense that we were able to slow down with Pat Surtain out for half the game, and it's still an NFL team. So let them talk, but this was a big win to help the Denver Broncos improve to 6-2 on the season. If you do enjoy this video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel down below, as the support is greatly appreciated. Let's go ahead and let's jump straight in to this Week 8 recap for the Denver Broncos versus the Dallas Cowboys. So starting off, we're going to look at the box score here, right? As I mentioned, it's a 44-24 victory for the Broncos over the Dallas Cowboys. And here we have the team stats. First, though, I want to say player on the left is Louis Wright, of course, of the Orange Crush defense. And he was at today's game because obviously we are wearing the Orange Crush throwbacks. And so he was at the game, so I figured I'd put him here in the box score. And as you can see, the Broncos dominated the Cowboys in every single yardage stats: total yards, passing yards, rushing yards, and yards per play. So that's already a great recipe to success. But the Broncos played pretty well. I look at the penalties, and there's one or two bogus ones. I think one of the Riley Moss PIs was a little bit of a bogus call, right? But only having 2 punts on the game, that's really good in terms of success. You're not punting, you're staying on the field, you're converting, and you're driving down and scoring, right? Obviously, Bo had that one interception early in the game, and we'll talk about that more when we're talking about Bo Nix, but no fumbles. Had less time of possession, but that's because the Broncos' drives, they were quick, right? There's either chunk yards thrown, or either J.K. Dobbins or R.J. Harvey just flipped the field on these big, massive rushes. So we really didn't possess the ball a lot because we were driving down and scoring it very quick. But yeah, I will say there are some penalties going back to that I do think need to be cleaned up, but it was better than weeks previous. But I still think there are one or two minor things that need to be cleaned up. For example, when Frank Crum, he reported as eligible and then was covered up, so it was an illegal formation. Stuff like that does need to be cleaned up a little bit. I know penalties are going to happen, but these procedural ones need to be cleaned up as fast as possible, in my opinion. Starting with Bo Nix now, he was fantastic, and I've seen a lot of people on Twitter and online discrediting Bo Nix and these great throws that he had because it was against a weak and depleted Cowboys defense, but it's still an NFL defense, and Bo Nix was making some really great throws, placing them right on the money, specifically the touchdown to Pat Bryant. But looking at his stats here, he went 19 for 29 for 65.5% completion percentage. He threw for 247 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, and had a rating of 117.4. By far his best game, as well as the offense, right? We didn't start slow, and we actually opened up the playbook to get all these passes in intermediate range, downfield, setting up the run, and not having these screen passes and run plays over and over again. Sean Payton finally opened up the offense, and the offense looked tremendous. I know it's against a weak Cowboys team, so taking it with a little bit of a grain of salt, and we'll see how we do against a really good Texans defense next week. But no, Bo Nix played really solid. The one interception, it happened on the 3rd play of the game, and it was a little bit concerning, right? When I first watched it, obviously I was at the game, but it kind of looked like it was an option route from my perspective, that Bo Nix and Pat Bryant were on the same page, where Bo Nix was expecting a curl route, and Pat Bryant kind of just kept cutting it in. But after looking back at it, Bo didn't make the best throw, right? I was like 4 yards behind Pat Bryant, so does need to clean up on that. But overall, Bo Nix had a really solid game. He took care of the football. He was delivering these perfect throws, right? Could have had 5 touchdown passes on the day. There was the PI on Adam Troutman that got Cortland Sutton's touchdown called back, and that was really unfortunate. I don't really know if it was a PI on Adam Troutman. They didn't show it on the replay on the video board in the stadium, as well as they didn't show it on the replay highlights on YouTube, and I haven't had a chance to go back and look at the film, but you guys can let me know in the comment section if that was PI. And then the next play should have been another touchdown, but that ball just bounced off Cortland Sutton. But other than that Bo Nix was throwing the ball and he was placing it really, really well, showing that accuracy off and putting the ball where his receivers would get it. And that pass to Pat Bryant for his first NFL touchdown, just a beautiful, beautiful pass right in the breadbasket for Pat Bryant. Easy to haul in and come down with his first NFL touchdown. So hopefully we see Bo Nix look like this in the future and just continuing to build off of this great game that he had. Next, we're going to go look at the running game, and J.K. Dobbins had a phenomenal game, right? 15 carries for 111 yards, his second 100-yard game on the season. He averaged 7.4 yards per rush. The Denver Broncos running backs were running all over this Cowboys defense. He didn't score any touchdowns, but he had some big chunk yardage that helped flip field position and helped the Broncos to continue to move down the field to get ourselves into scoring range. So while he didn't score any touchdowns, he was a big part of this offense, contributing to the Broncos scoring. And then you look at R.J. Harvey, who has had the best game so far of his young NFL career. Right on the ground, he ran 7 times for 46 yards, averaged 6.6 a carry with 2 touchdowns on the ground. Of course, that first one was the toss play that he took 40-plus yards into the end zone for his first NFL rushing touchdown. And then that second rushing touchdown, it was a wildcat formation with Harvey in the shotgun, where he was just able to keep it up the middle for a rushing touchdown. Of course, Harvey being a former quarterback, you feel confident in the exchange with Harvey in the shotgun, being able to grab the snap, right, catch it, and then take off with it. And then through the air, Harvey only had 1 reception for 5 yards, but it was that touchdown, his third touchdown of the game. So R.J. Harvey had a phenomenal game, right? 3 touchdowns for the rookie. Fantastic. His best game of his young career so far. And then we move over to the receivers, and Troy Franklin had a fantastic game as well. He had 6 receptions on 8 targets for 89 yards, average 14.8 per reception, and then had 2 touchdowns, right? The first one was the second touchdown of the game where no one was around Troy and he caught it, fell down in the end zone to put us up 14-3 at that point. And then his second one, it was the Broncos. They were driving to the opposite end zone, right? And then Bo Nix looked left and Troy Franklin was wide open in the end zone for that second touchdown. There were a couple things I would like to see Troy Franklin improve on, right? The first thing was getting his feet in bounds. He had that one incomplete pass where it looked like he caught it, but he wasn't able to keep his feet in bounds to get full control of it. So needs to work on that, and honestly, he did improve on that, right? His second touchdown, he did toe tap at the back of the end zone for the catch and for the touchdown. And then the second thing is, before the R.J. Harvey toss, when Bo Nix went deep to Troy Franklin, I'd like to see him dive and lay out for that, at least make an attempt to catch the ball, right? Maybe that's just me over complaining, and that'd be fair to say, but would be nice to see Troy Franklin try and lay out for that one. Then we move on to Pat Bryant, who was phenomenal, right? Only two receptions on 4 targets, averaged 20 yards, but he did get his first ever NFL touchdown. So shout out to Pat Bryant. Did the mile-high salute after scoring. Sorry for hitting the microphone there. Yeah, Pat Bryant had an excellent game in his young career. It was cool to see all the firsts in person, right? I got to see R.J. Harvey's first touchdown on that Monday night game against the Bengals. Then got to see his first rushing touchdown this week. Got to see Pat Bryant's first touchdown. And we also got to see Jahdae Barron's first interception, which we'll talk about him a little bit later. As for another receiver, Courtland Sutton had 4 receptions on 6 targets for 67 yards, averaged 16.8 per reception. No touchdown. Probably should have had one, but it is what it is. Of course, there was the one target where it bounced off of his chest and it fell incomplete, where he should have had the touchdown. And then the second one, I don't believe it was this, right? I don't think it was where he caught the touchdown, but it got called back due to Adam Troutman's pass interference. I don't think they counted that as a reception, right? Because the play was technically nullified. But Sutton had a solid game. The one thing that kind of irks me about Courtland Sutton sometimes is he'll make these amazing contested catches and come down with the ball, and then sometimes when he's open, he'll just slip right through his hands and fall incomplete. So he sometimes has those concentration drops, which irk me, but Courtland Sutton has been a fantastic receiver for the Broncos this season, right? He's that target. He's that familiar target, and he's kind of that go-to guy for Bo Nix when he needs a big play. As for the defense, actually, before we get to the defense, I will say Marvin Mims wasn't really utilized as a receiver. Who's kind of a gadget guy, right? Had a big return in this game, as well as, like I said, gadget guy, got a bunch of handoffs, was a rusher. Didn't have as big of a game last week, but Marvin is kind of this guy who you're going to see him used in different roles each and every single week. So there's that. And then I also want to talk about the offensive line because I don't have any graphics for the offensive line, but they played phenomenal, right? Bo Nix was not sacked a single time in this game. He was pressured one or two times. I can't remember how many times he was pressured, but it was a very few amount. And then shout out to Quinn Minor, who just kept pancaking defenders on that RJ Harvey touchdown, right? He was just a bully, and he is one of the best run blocking guards in the NFL, right? So Quinn Minor's absolute dog, and the offensive line, shout out to them for keeping Bo Nix upright, not letting him take a sack, and shout out to Alex Palczewski for filling into that left guard role so well while Ben Powers is on IR. So yeah, there's that. Now let's go on to the defense, who only had 2 sacks, right, on Dak Prescott. One of them was, of course, John Franklin Myers, the other being Zach Allen from our interior guys. 2 interceptions on the day. Shout out Jahdae Barron, the first-round pick, for getting his first career interception, and he played stellar in this game, right? We lost Pat Surtain for half of the game, maybe even a little bit more, right? After that first drive where the Broncos hold the Cowboys to a field goal, Pat Surtain had a lower leg injury and he was kind of hobbling off the field, but he did come back on the field, and then later after halftime, never stepped back on the field due to a shoulder injury. So I thought Jahdae Barron played really well in his stead. Unfortunately, Chris Abrams-Draine, who I'm still high on, really did struggle going up against George Pickens, gave up some big completions, but still like what Chris Abrams-Draine brings to the table, hoping he can improve on his performance today. And then the other interception was Dondre Tillman, who he intercepted it, and as soon as he intercepted it, I was hype, but he got up and started to return it, and I was thinking to myself, just get down so you don't fumble the football, right? Let us take over, chew some clock off, and really just run the clock out on the Cowboys. But he kept going, and he had a really, really nice return, taking it back to midfield range-ish. So shout out to Dondre Tillman for getting the interception and then getting up and running with it and having a heck of a return for a defensive lineman. But yeah, the defense, I thought they played really well, especially with the fact that you were missing Pat Surtain for about half of the game, and the Cowboys with 2 wide receiver ones in CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, and a quarterback like Dak Prescott who's playing at an MVP caliber level. You were able to hold them to only 24 points, and really, honestly, 17 points, because that last 7 came with the backups in with Joe Milton. So limiting that offense without Pat Surtain, I thought that was really, really nice to see. Now, I do hope Pat Surtain's okay, right? Because you are going to need him down the stretch if you want to have success as a defense, right? I like our pass rush. I really do. But having Pat Surtain where he can eliminate one receiver or even half of a field, it's just a nice thing to have. So Pat Surtain, hopefully it's okay. Hopefully he's not going to miss too much time, but we'll have to see how things go. But yeah, that's my video. I do hope you guys enjoyed this quick little recap of the Denver Broncos Week 8 victory over the Dallas Cowboys 44-27. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. Here this week, I'm trying to get a couple videos out. I want to get a mock draft out, and then I want to get a Denver Broncos trade targets video out before the trade deadline passes. So hopefully we can get those out this week. Thank you all so much for watching. My name is Parker, and I can't wait to see you in another video here very, very soon. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.